I'd like to call this regular council meeting of July 11th to order. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Sells, Councillor English, all those in favor. Motion's carried. I need a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 27th. Councillor Nixon, Councillor Brothers, and all those in favor. Motion's carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes of June 27th? Just a couple quick announcements. Just want to pass on our support for all the communities that are evacuated, all the forest fires that are going on, and just to also remind the community that we have to be ever vigilant, especially this time of the year. I know there is a campfire ban of all kinds in place right now, and water restrictions are on, and one of the reasons why water restrictions are on is to keep the pressure in the system for our fire hydrants to be working at full capacity. So again, think about everything that's around you. It's obviously a pretty volatile situation in the forest, and we don't want to be adding to the burden that all the forest firefighters are having already. I would also like to congratulate Dawn Lowe for getting her certification as a municipal clerk. Job well done, congratulations. We'll just put letters behind your name, but there's no extra pay. We have one delegation today, and Mr. J. Clark, the Ombudsperson, is here. And Mr. Clark, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium, and I think your presentation is all ready.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for taking a bit of time this afternoon to hear a little bit about what the office does, the office of the Ombudsperson. I'm not here on any investigatory capacity. This is purely an opportunity to meet and share a little bit about what we do. But 3 times a year we go out to spend a week going out to communities across the province, and we go to a community and meet with the authorities that are under our jurisdiction, and my staff take inquiries and complaints from people who want to raise concerns that way. That doesn't mean they're complaining about this authority or any other, but that's an opportunity for people who would rather be in person as opposed to our regular way, which is on the phone. I'll take maybe half an hour of your time, and I'd love to entertain your questions, so I'll try to do it in about 20 minutes, and we'll have some time for questions at the end. So there's slides up there, and we'll move around through. The Office of the Ombudsperson, what is it? I'm an officer of the legislature. That's important. That means my accountability is to the Legislative Assembly of the province, not to the government. The government is just another public body that we investigate. Our relationship with them is no different than our relationship with you or any other public body of the province. I'm appointed by a committee of legislators. They have to provide the committee has to be comprised of all parties in the legislature. It has to be unanimous. So the purpose of that is to create impartiality as well as independence. And so we're an actual independent organization that investigates complaints. So what does that mean? Well, our powers all come from the Ombudsperson Act, so it's a statutory thing. And what the Ombudsperson Act provides is that our job is to receive complaints from the public with respect to public bodies under our jurisdiction, so there's a list of public bodies that are under our jurisdiction, determine whether or not the public body has acted fairly and reasonably. And so just think of us as sort of the administrative fairness people. So we're part of that network of oversight entities that tries to make sure that all public bodies and public administration in the province are conducted properly. Other officers of the legislature, people like the Auditor General, who ensure fiscal probity by the province, the Chief Elections Officer, who administers elections in the provinces as well. So we're part of that network of legislative officers. We have jurisdiction over local governments in the province and have had that since about 1995. So we have some 20 plus years track record of receiving and investigating complaints with respect to local governments. That's not universally true across the province, or across Canada rather. For example, my colleague in Ontario just got jurisdiction over local governments this past year, so it's quite new to them, and they're still finding their way. In Saskatchewan, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. So, all of these things happen at different times, but we have, as I said, over 20 years of experience with respect to local governments. Investigations, most of our investigations come from the public, so we get complaints from the public and investigate. We can initiate investigations on our own by my order. We can investigate something, and we do that. We call those systemic investigations, and I'll talk about those a bit later. We issue public reports about various things. Some of the ones on the slide are ones that are kind of interest to local government. We issue the 2 best practice reports that are really, I think, quite helpful for local government. One is an open meetings guide, so when you as council decide to not meet in open council, but meet in closed session, there are statutory rules about how to do that, and we've issued a guide as to, to assist council, because we get a lot of complaints about that issue, and so we thought it was worthwhile to issue a best practice guide. Doesn't mean someone's not going to complain, but if you comply with those best practices, you probably will be on the right side of the investigation. And the other one we recently did was bylaw enforcement. We'll talk about that in a second. So, what's an ombudsman? So they've been around a couple hundred years. The first one was in Sweden a couple hundred years ago. Fast forward to about 1965. First one in Canada was not a parliamentary ombudsman like my office, but rather Simon Fraser was the first. When Simon Fraser was being established, they wanted to establish a new kind of university. One put students at the center, and so one of the ways they did that was they established a student ombudsman office. So that was the first ombudsman in Canada, and then parliamentary ombudsman sort of became the thing. And over the subsequent decade or so, each province passed ombudsman acts. And in 1977, the act was passed in British Columbia. In 1979, that came into force. So there's been an ombudsman for 38 years now in the province. And as I said, in 1995, extension to local governments, we have jurisdiction over some over 2,000 public bodies in the province. That little group in the bottom right-hand corner are the original staff of the office 37 years ago, and the picture on the left is from the Canadian Museum of Human Rights, where you see the top banner there is celebrating the establishment of the first ombudsman in 1809 in Sweden. It also is the first time I ever took a cell phone picture in my life at work, so I mentioned that. So what's administrative fairness? So really it's a set of standards. It's a standard of conduct that we expect public bodies and the public expect public bodies to adhere to. And I know you've done some work recently. I was told by your chief administrative officer that recently you've passed an administrative fairness policy, and before that a public participation policy. All of those are good. They all go to informing the public as to what your understanding of those concepts are. But you'll see those sorts of bullets. I'm sure that's the kind of thing you were thinking about as you grappled with what administrative fairness meant in your context. But that's what it means to us. So why is it important? And in other words, what is it? How does it help you as an organization? So think of bylaw enforcement as just an example. As you sort of think about those things. When your staff are enforcing bylaws, they're often in situations about conflict. I mean, that's really what bylaw enforcement often ends up looking like. Those enforcement decisions affect people, in their homes, and so it's pretty visceral, the kind of reaction that they can have about questions of bylaw enforcement, either seeking to have a bylaw enforced or seeking not to have it enforced on them. But when those enforcement decisions are seen to be done in a transparent way and done in a fair and reasonable way, that act alone and seen to be consistent and as between residents, that's a key indicator in ensuring that the public receive that in a way that reduces the level of conflict. It doesn't feel arbitrary, or doesn't seem arbitrary to most people. Better use of staff time. Fairness means that your staff understand and have good rules about what to apply. That's more efficient. It enables them to work more quickly. It enables them to be clearer with residents, and that transparency allows them to act more efficiently. We've seen examples, for example, just because I'm mentioning bylaw, we've seen examples of bylaws that were passed by councils that actually weren't enforceable. And the amount of time that staff then spend dealing with people who want to see a bylaw enforced or who are struggling with how to enforce a bylaw that actually wasn't enforceable is itself a problem. And lastly, it can help build relationships with the broader community because the broader public, not just the people who are both seeking to have a bylaw enforced or seeking not to have it enforced, but the broader public see that their city government is acting in a way that is seen as fair. So what does it look like for us? So this is our process. We get about 8,000 inquiries or complaints a year about all public authorities in the province. Those come in a variety of different ways. Most of them come in by phone. And we then sort through those. We triage those. You don't see every complaint that we receive about a public body. But 75% of the complaints we receive, we triage one way or the other. So about 1,000 complaints are about people we don't have jurisdiction over. I'll talk about who we do in a second. And then a number of them are situations where people have contacted us, but they haven't exhausted their remedies that might exist with whatever public body they're dealing with. So say you have an appeal process or a review process for people who are unhappy and they haven't availed themselves yet of that. We'll inform them about that. We'll encourage them to do that. We'll say we're not going to investigate until they've exhausted that remedy. So go and try and solve the problem themselves with you. We do that for a few reasons. One is we expect people to do that. We also expect public authorities to deal with people who aren't happy. If they're not first instance say, well, go see the Ombudsperson. But if they've availed themselves of the remedies that exist and are still unhappy, we say by all means at that point come forward and come back and see us. I ran a public body for 12 years, and we had 3 levels of review, and you had to go through those 3 levels of review before a complaint would, at that point, go to the Ombudsperson. So about 2,000 times a year, we'll then do a deeper dive on an investigation, and sort of 1,500 times a year at that point, we'll decide, okay, we're going to investigate. That might be early resolution, meaning we think it's a pretty straightforward matter, could probably be resolved in 2 weeks. Those cases go to an early resolution officer. The rest would go to an investigator, and at that point we start an investigation. So that's, as I said, about 1,500 times a year. So who do we get complaints about, and what's our jurisdiction? What does it cover? So we have jurisdiction over all the provincial government ministries, so then that's about a half of the work that we receive would be related to provincial government ministries. The number one public body we receive complaints about is the Ministry of Social Development and Social Innovation, who deal with income assistance and disability assistance. We get about 1,000 of those 8,000 complaints a year, about 1,000 complaints a year related to that ministry. Next in line would be the Ministry of Children and Family Development. We get 600 complaints a year related to the Ministry of Children and Families. So between those two, we're almost at 20% roughly of all of the complaints that we receive in the province. And then about 15% relate to crown corporations, and we have jurisdiction over crown corporations, ICBC, BC Hydro, we have jurisdiction over those. And then about 10% each of all the agency boards and commissions in the province, and the health authorities, and significantly local governments. So that red slice of the pie is relates to local government. So in a year, if you think 8,000 is what we start with, about 800 are related to local government. Doing real rough math, about 75% go somewhere else, so we end up looking into about 200 local government complaints across the province in a year. Rebels vote, maybe 1 every 2 years, seems to be, if I look back over the last few years, of cases not the complaint we receive, but actual cases that we investigate. Probably one every year or 2. So nothing like, say, the Ministry of Social Development, where it's probably one every 2 hours. So health authorities, about 8%. That's all public hospitals in the province, all the health authorities. And then the last sort of 4 or 5% are all the others. That's all the colleges, all the universities, every public school in the province, all the school districts. It's quite a lot in those last 2 little slivers, but that's really what the work looks like. So, but one of the challenges for receiving, if you're receiving one complaint every couple of years, is unlike our high volume authorities, is we're very used to dealing with them, they're very used to dealing with us, and so it's important for us to understand each other when you're receiving complaints. We're receiving complaints much less frequently than those. So what are common local government complaints? Really, a lot of them are about transparency. So about 40%, 4 out of 10 are about just people feeling that they had inadequate information about either things that were being decided by council or things that were being done by local government staff. And related to that are another 12% that are complaints about public consultation, so really kind of similar to questions of transparency. And then also related to that are the green slice of the pie, which is really relates to open and closed meetings. So you add all of those up, that's really quite a lot. That's almost 60% of all the complaints. And then the next biggest slice would be bylaw enforcement, about a quarter of the complaints that we receive about local government or about bylaw enforcement. Then we get other fees and fines and other complaints. But you really see transparency and public consultation really are the source of a great portion of the complaints that relate to local government. Let's get back to the sort of over that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens when we do an investigation and what we expect of staff when we're conducting an investigation. So, as I said, if we're doing an investigation, we'll write a letter to you that basically sets out what it is we're investigating. It sets out what the concerns are that are expressed by the complainant who's come to us. It will point out that we're neutral, we're impartial, we're not an advocate for the complainant, and so what we determine will be done through the course of the investigation. But it's important for you to know what it is that that we're investigating, so we're going to set that out in the letter. Typically, at that first letter, we also ask for certain information, and we identify who the investigator is. We invite someone to contact the investigator, as well as provide that information. We often hear from authorities, well, you've asked for this information, but what you really know is you need to know this. That's not what you need to know. You need to know this other thing. And so we like to say we're absolutely interested in the other thing that you want to tell us about. Give us this information that we've asked for, or we think it's important, and we're going to keep asking for it until we get it. But we're absolutely interested in your story, because you're the ones who are closest to the action, and you'll be able to fill in and put a lot of flesh on the bones compared to what it is we're asking for. So give us what we're asking for, but also tell us the story that you want us to know about. Try and focus your response. Sometimes we get huge 20 binders of material. Then we're looking through 20 binders, and we might think other things are important than you do. If it is 20 binders, then send us the 20 binders. But if it's not, it really helps that you can focus us to say, well, you have 20 binders of the whole issue, but really the important things that you need to know are found here, here, and here. That will help expedite the investigation, which I think is something that's in everybody's interest. Feel free to contact our investigator and speak with them about it, because I think that can help. Helps you ask questions, and it helps if they have that opportunity. For you to have that open line of communication. So, when we are conducting an investigation, what we're trying to do, we're not mediators. So our job is not to create an agreement between a complainant and a public body. That definitely happens sometimes when we're investigating, but it's not our job. What our job is to determine whether or not the public body has acted fairly. So there's a statutory test, there's a number of examples of what unfairness looks like. We're really assessing whether or not the public body acted fairly. In other words, above that line, you don't have to act perfectly, but whether or not you acted fairly, or whether or not, in our view, the public body's acted unfairly or unreasonably. If we determine that a public body has not acted unfairly, has acted fairly, then that for us, that's that's bringing us to a conclusion. We'll write to the complainant. We'll say we've investigated. We've come to the determination that this particular public body acted fairly, and that concludes our involvement. That may or may not be something that I'm happy with. Often, complainants to us say, great, I just wanted someone independent to look at it. I sort of lost confidence in what I was hearing. And so good to know that somebody independent has looked at it, even though it's not the result of every report we actually get the flood. There are other people who are more outcome focused, but we don't find in their favor, then they still may be unhappy, but now they're unhappy with us too. And that's just part of what we do. But about a quarter of the time that we investigate, we do come to the conclusion that there is something that a public body can do to make a situation fair. And so at that point, we're then proposing a resolution. So we made a determination that the public body hasn't acted fairly, and we're saying to make it right, here's what we're suggesting. So what we expect at that point is that you're very seriously going to consider those recommendations. I'm not a court. I can't order public bodies to accept their recommendations. And some people think that that's a weakness of our office. We kind of think of it as a strength, because really, coercive power can convince or can compel somebody to do something once, but it's not really going to change your attitude. And so really our goal is to do really great investigations that and come up with fair and practical and principled recommendations that are going to convince you that you should make a change in how you're doing business, or make a change with respect to so it's a recommendation-making power. At the end of the day, if public bodies don't comply with the recommendation, we have the power to issue a public report. It's very rare that we issue public reports saying that we have requested that we found a public body acted unfairly and suggested that they make it right and that they declined. We can do that. The last time for a local government was like 15 years ago, so it's not something that we encounter very often. What are other resolutions we might suggest? Things like this. For example, if we determined that something was unfair and there was a fine or a fee imposed, we might recommend that that be reimbursed. If the particular power that's being exercised can be reconsidered, we might recommend that that reconsideration take place. Sometimes we actually don't have, we determine that the outcome was fair, but that the reasons or the explanations were poor. Often in a drive to efficiency, use of form letters, an applicant is told your application is denied because it wasn't in the public interest. Well, that doesn't tell the applicant really very much about why their application was denied. And so we might recommend more robust and more explicit reasons. And we actually have some suggestions about what that looks like. We do recommend that quite a bit to organizations. Apologies. Sometimes it used to be in the bad old days that public bodies didn't like to apologize because they said our lawyers tell us if we apologize we'll be liable. Well, that's not the law in British Columbia. There's something called the Apology Act, and that came because we wrote a report some 15 years ago that said it shouldn't be in a civil society that when people do something wrong that there's a disincentive to apologize. And so now after the report, amendments were made or statutes introduced by the Attorney General of the day to basically make apologies inadmissible in subsequent proceedings. So you can apologize and it doesn't come out on you. And so we don't encounter that resistance anymore, or when we do, it's like that's actually not the case anymore. But sometimes at a more systemic level, we can determine that the public body acted properly, or acted in accordance with its policies, but those policies themselves are what created some unfairness. And in those circumstances, we're actually looking more broadly than just the one individual complainant, and might recommend that this particular practice or this policy be changed. So those are the sorts of things that you might, those all come from investigations we've done. So what are some tips for you to how to deal with complaints? The first is have a good dispute resolution process. So the work you've been doing about transparency around public participation and fairness, and having good complaint resolution policies and being transparent about those help a lot because then people know what to expect and your staff know what to do when complaints are an impact. Be timely about about responding. If you say you're going to get back to somebody in 2 weeks, get back to them in 2 weeks. Even if you need more time, get back to them in 2 weeks and tell them you need more time. Nothing seems to provoke complainants forward more than silence, right? When they thought they were going to be told something. Have an appropriate point of contact, and by appropriate we mean somebody who actually can provide useful information. And this is probably less a challenge in small public authorities, but in large ones you often find that those calls get routed to a call center, and then the person can't really answer. You've all in your own personal lives had that experience where you're dealing with somebody who's very friendly but can't actually provide much useful information. So what we really try to stress is make sure that the person can talk to somebody who can actually answer the sorts of questions that complain about that. And then the last two are about culture. These are definitely the way most organizations behave these days. It's less and less common to see organizations that are pull up the drawbridge when they get a complaint and get defensive. Be open and make sure that the public understand you're open to reevaluating. You're making a lot of decisions every year, and your staff making a lot of decisions every year. They're not every single one of them is going to be right. And be open to the notion that maybe you should reevaluate a particular decision. We see that sometimes when we send a notice to investigate. If we're just starting our investigation, and the authority will say, "Can you just put that in drawer for a month because we'd like to take another look at this. We actually think that maybe we took a misstep here," and that's great. We're happy to let people do that. And then lastly, there's a sort of maxim in retailing that for every complaint you get, you have 20 unhappy customers who just went away. And so if you adopt kind of a culture of continuous improvement, and you use complaints as really indicators about whether or not you've got unhappy customers out there, you can adopt it and move it into your management philosophy as an organization, and use it as one of the inputs into what we can do better as an organization. And as I said, the kind of policies that you've been looking at, those sort of broad systemic transparency policies, really reflect some good work that you're doing on that part. That's important. But certainly you see more and more organizations trying to adopt that, and we have more and more deputy ministers and CEOs asking me, what about those 75% of the complaints that we never saw? And I said, well, you never saw them, and we dealt with them another way. And they say, I point out, we've never investigated them, we've never validated them. And they say, yeah, we get that, but we're still interested, because we've got unhappy customers out there, whether or not you even determine that those complaints are valid. It's still a concern to us that people are expressing that much concern, even if those concerns aren't valid. So that's a reflection, really, of that, trying to use whatever points of information people have to be able to make improvements. So these are, as I said, these are some guides. Two of them are in your package that you have in front of you, the Open Meeting and Bylaw Enforcement Guide. So, and the other one is about riparian areas, and the professional alliance model also can be an issue in local government. So, turning to open meetings, this was an issue, as I said, we investigated a number of years ago. It was really about transparency and accountability, and really the Open Meetings Guide is a step-by-step guide to ensuring that you're staying on the right side of the statutory requirements about when you go into closed meetings. It's possible to do. You have statutory authority to do it, but you have to do it a particular way. It is, not surprisingly, something that precipitates concerns among residents, because they wonder, well, why was that decision made not in open session? So so we go through sort of what's required. What goes through what's required? Oh. Something screen or something. So just how to do it, and also the last point at the bottom is ensuring you have a process to periodically review information that was presented at a closed meeting, because sometimes the reasons for doing those are time limited, and then eventually those reasons for why you had to go into a closed session no longer pertain, and you can then subsequently open up those records that related to that prior closed meeting. So those are a number of best practices, but read the reports there for your reading. The other one is more recent, bylaw enforcement, and this really deals with, as I said, an area where we get about a quarter of our local government complaints are about bylaw enforcement, and they're both from both sides, people who want to see a bylaw enforcement and those who don't. And what we did there that's a little different is in that report, we put a number of checklists in it for local government staff to work their way through. But it starts really with you. It starts with the role of council and separating your role and the role of staff and what things as council members you shouldn't do with respect to particular cases of bylaw enforcement. And ensuring that it's staff that do those things and not yourselves. And then how to deal with bylaw complaints and conduct investigations and then the actual active enforcement and appeals. So really kind of working your way through the whole process and really what a set of best practices are when you do that. I think this guide is particularly helpful for smaller local governments because certainly if you're dealing with the city of Vancouver, they've got whole departments, a lot of separation of functions because of the volume, whereas a smaller community, you're more challenged to do that. So this sort of guide hopefully provides some help. So how to use those guides? I mean, and I've had some questions from local government, what do you think we should do with this? And I've also heard from local government of what they've done. And so, for example, Amir told me last year that what he does when he gets them is he turns them over to his senior staff and asks for a report to council. So how do we measure up? Because maybe if you go back to some of those best practices, you're great on A, B, and C, but D and E need some work. Well, that gives everybody a focus for what do we need to do. You can build it into your work plan of the sorts of things you need to do for the next year, and raise your game on some of those best practices. But maybe you're doing great on some of the others, and we're in good shape. So use it as a bit of a way to do a bit of self-assessment, and that would be good for it. So really, that's everything I wanted to say. I'm pleased to take any questions you might have, and thanks for your time.
Councilor Nixon?
So you've been with the Ombudsman's office for how long?
2 years. I've been the Ombudsperson for 2 years.
Okay.
My first experience as an Ombudsman officer was 30-some years ago. I was an investigator in Ontario in 1985, I think it was. But that goes back a long way. But more recently, just a couple of years.
So have the staff noticed a difference with the factor of social media?
So one of the things about social media and just generally availability of information on the internet is I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, to be blunt. I mean, on the negative, I think sometimes and this isn't unique to British Columbia. This is a thing we see manifested worldwide these days, where highly complex issues are boiled down to 140 characters. I think that leads to misunderstanding sometimes, and clearly anonymous complaint or comments and things like that. I think that can be difficult for everybody. The flip side is that it gives you an opportunity to be very, open and provide a lot of information in a highly accessible way, and be able to explain, the nature of decisions that, or the challenges that your particular organization is facing. So it's a challenge of how, both authorities, and the public, and how much information and how can you take all the information that's available and make it useful for your residents to be informed about particular issues in the community. So, I think it is possible, and I'm no expert, believe me, my kids laugh at me every time on social media. But certainly, what people who use it more than I say, if you don't use it much and you resist it, what you end up getting is sort of the negative. It's only when you really kind of step in and move forward in it that you then start to see the public benefits. So I'm not there yet personally, but I think that's definitely true. And we see a number of public bodies out there who you can clearly see are making good use of public information tools. And it's so different than it used to be.
Councilor Brothers?
If the situation doesn't resolve itself and it ends up in court, can you be called as a witness or something?
No, we're inadmissible for all those purposes, so you don't get to then to take our report and run it into a courtroom. Because Because we're considering all kinds of evidence that's inadmissible in court, which is really the reason, right? So we're not subject to the same admissibility rules. We have broad information collection powers, and because of that, when we're not subject to those same rules, it wouldn't really make sense to take a report that was written with all those tools and then stick it into a public domain. No different really, but you can't take a report, say, from a public inquiry and then enter it into a civil liability trial and say, well, this is what an inquiry commissioner found. Same.
Councilor Lando.
Jay, is the public able to go in maybe on your website and check up on the city of Revelstoke? Can residents see how many complaints have been filed, received, how we're doing? Is there a way they can find it?
I'm trying to remember the level of granularity. You can certainly see how many, for example, in our annual report, we list all the authorities, we list, I think we do actually, there's a way to kind of get in and see all the, I'll break down to the number of complaints that a particular authority has, yes. So you can see that. But what's more prominent is in our annual report, we'll have the top 10 list of authorities, which everybody's always very interested in, and then the top 10 in each kind of category, so the top 10 local governments. And local governments are subject to kind of big swings, and so in our annual report 2 years ago, number 1 in local governments is Vancouver, no surprise. Number 2 was Surrey, no surprise. Number 3, Gibson, right? Who would have thought, right? But there was an issue, a whole bunch of people complained, so there were a lot of complaints, right? There were a number of issues. So and yet the next year that might then return to normal, right? And there might be some other local government that might, so local governments do tend to have those big swings because they're relatively low volume, basically smaller local governments. Whereas, Ministry of Social Development, we're pretty flat, but very high.
Any other questions, Councilor English?
I'll send you the link for
Thank you.
Is there a time limit to when issues have happened that people that they have a set time to speak about those issues?
So we have a discretion to decline to investigate matters that are, or complaints that are made to us more than a year after the issue that was being complained about. But we don't have to decide whether or not to exercise it. So I wouldn't describe it as a hard limitation period. It's a soft one for us to determine whether or not we're going to. And, we'll consider the explanation for the delay in determining whether or not we would limit a complaint on that basis. Probably we want to see what the merits are more than, to say, well, it's a few months and there's no prejudice because the records are still there and the people who need to talk to us are probably just.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Jay, thank you for the presentation, and thanks for getting out of Victoria and coming and visiting our corner of the world. And I think it's great for the presentation to let the people in these communities know that they have an avenue to look at to make sure that they're being treated fairly.
Great. Well, thank you for your time, your worship.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you. We're moving into bylaws, and the first one is Thomas Brooks loan authorization bylaw. Councilor English.
I wanted to bring this forward, your worship, but I understand hold my hand through this. So I don't,
First one's really easy, it just says written.
A misstep. So the reason why we're doing this is the province has asked us to come back and for us to do it this way, so that's what I'm going to try and work through now. The third reading of the Thomas Brook loan authorization bylaw 2182 be rescinded.
Motion by Councilor English, seconded by Councilor Nixon. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
So I'm going to bring forward number 2, that the Thomas Brook loan authorization bylaw 2182 be reread a third time as amended.
No, as amended.
Okay,
Just be reread
a third time, okay.
Motion by Councilor English, seconded by Councilor Nixon. Discussion on the motion. Is that your hand up for a question? Or does the amendment go first and then
You're
it's...
going to have someone to move and second the amendment.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to have a move the amendment of this third reading.
that Thomas Brook Loan Authorization Bylaw 2182 be amended at third reading to provide borrowing details. A, the estimated amount allocated for the installation of the sewer utility system is $314,000. B, the estimated amount allocated for the installation of the water utility system is $394,000. And C, the total amount to be borrowed under this bylaw and upon the credit of the municipality, a sum not exceeding $708,000.
So we have an amendment to the motion, and the motion is moved by Councillor English, seconded by Councillor Nixon, so we are discussing the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Now we're going to have the motion on the floor now is for the amended motion, and it's already been moved and seconded. And is there any discussion on the amended motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Good job, Councillor English.
Thank you for your help. I'll just stay on a roll here and keep going. So bringing forward B, that animal control bylaw 2183 be adopted.
Motion by Councillor English, seconded by Councillor Sells. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion is carried.
Item C, that municipal property tree amendment bylaw 2184 be adopted.
Motion by Councillor English, seconded by Councillor Armando. Was your hand was moving, that's why I grabbed you. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
And D, that municipal ticket information system amendment bylaw 2166 be adopted.
Motion by Councillor English, seconded by Councillor Brothers. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And staff reports.
I'll recuse myself on 11A, Your Worship, on a former solicitor in West.
Thank you. So we're on 11A. Councilor Randall.
Sure, for that. I move that the highway use license for 103-607 Victoria Road between the city of Revelstoke and Nexcana Property Development Limited, Inc., number BC 0787815 for installation of a cement block patio complete with a metal fence, planters, and a retractable vinyl awning be approved.
Motion by Councilor Randall, seconded by Councilor Sells. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Don, would you mind letting our councilor in? There was no presentation on any of this stuff, Mr. Reddick. We are on 11B. Who would like to do 11B? Anybody? Councilor Sells.
Your Worship, I'll bring forward that the highway use license for 108 and 110 First Street West between the city of Revelstoke and Stan's Plumbing and Heating Ltd. for maintenance of a wood frame awning be approved.
Motion by Councilor Sells, seconded by Councilor Brothers. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Item C. Councilor Brothers.
The terms of reference for the Revelstoke Area Emergency Management Program Management Committee be amended to increase voting members from 8 to 9 by inclusion of the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture.
Motion by Councilor Brothers, seconded by Councilor Nixon. Discussion on the motion. Councilor
Your
Brothers.
Worship, I just have a question. Why are we adding this on? What's the purpose of doing that?
Your Worship, the incumbent director responsible for city facilities might be used as a reception center, trained in emergency management, will assist with the emergency operations center. So, not important to have her at the table as well.
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Communications, is there anybody who wants to bring anything up on the Parks and Rec and Culture monthly report of June 2017? Or the Social Development Committee minutes of May 24th? Questions from media?
None from me, Your Worship.
Alex?
None here.
Whoa. Looking for motion pursuant to section 90.1 E and J Community Charter to go in camera. Councillor Nixon, Councillor Solid, all in favor.